Social work is a difficult and challenging profession at the best of times, and social workers make such a profound difference to millions of people's lives across this country every day, and often go unrecognised for doing so. And it can often be the case that some of the bad news stories are heard. The good news stories can't ever be shared. And social work, just as I said, does make such a positive difference to people's lives that we want to put social work front and center during this week. We want to raise the profile of the profession and ensure that as many people as possible realize and recognize the value that social workers bring to society. But also to, as you say, give social workers the opportunity to just take a breath and pause and come together and reflect on their practice, hear from some of the great speakers that we've got around very pertinent issues at the moment, and also have a chance to enjoy themselves and take part in some of the wellbeing activities. For us, it is a really significant opportunity to continue our relationship and to develop our relationship with the sector. We are a new specialist social work regulator, and our core values are very much rooted in social work practice and based on the values that social workers have and use in their practice every day. And a huge part of that, as a new and different regulator, is to base everything around engagement, dialogue and collaboration, and to co-produce our work where possible and appropriate. And one of the things that we learned as we were setting up as a new organisation, through our outreach work and through our conversation with social workers and people who use social work services across the country, was that there was a real appetite for something like this, which would really give social workers across the country the opportunity to come together in a different way, reflect on their practice, learn together, celebrate social work and all of the wonderful things that social workers do every day in this country, and just have a bit of time together to learn and develop. And so we were delighted then to put on what is actually the first social work week of its kind. So it is an opportunity to learn, connect and engage on the values and principles which form the backbone of excellent social work practice. And what's really significant about this, as well as our many keynote speakers who are sector leaders in their field, people like Lena Dominelli and Prospera Tiram, the chief social workers from Adults and Children's Services. A huge element of this week is hearing the voice from people who use social work services. And so we have ensured that their voices are very present and front and centre throughout some of the events that we have. And we've already had massive sign up to the week. So I think this morning is at just under 9,200 people have signed up to the variety of events that we have. And the key themes are understanding your regulators. We want people to get to know us a bit better. Social work and me, so living the professional standards, which is the fundamental basis of all social work practice in this country. Equality, diversity and inclusion, and the social work perspectives of that. And as we are in the midst of Race Equality Week and LGBTQIA plus History Month, then I think it's ever more important to reflect on the events of this year, what we've learned, and how we want to move social work forward to ensure that anti-racism in all of its forms, including anti-Semitism and anti-oppressive and anti-discriminatory practice, are front and centre of all social workers' practice in this country. And also then what's next for social work.
My focus is on kind of how we do this, as well as the week itself. And we started back in June with a real clear ask from the sector that we put on an annual conference. That's something they expected to see from their new regulator. And it was the fault of the collaborators internally that designed a whole week instead of an annual conference. So we had a mixture of staff from across Social Work England who are excited by the idea, and people from our National Advisory Forum that include people with lived experience, social workers, students, academics, and it's their brainchild this week. And then it's kept that theme of collaboration all the way through. I think that's really important for us. And so we asked for expressions of interest to deliver things across the week. So there's over 70 events, and I think we had over 70 expressions of interest to get involved and deliver different things. So we're really proud that it's for the sector and by the sector. We wanted it to be that also. And I guess the only other thing to say is that we really wanted to make sure that it had a real well-being and reflective practice angle, especially in the year that we've just been through and are continuing to go through. And we know how important the well-being of the sector is, so that they're able to support others, and also that we take the time to reflect, even at a time when it feels like there's no time to do that. And actually that's been one of our most popular sessions so far, is the reflective practice, which I think is really indicative of what the sector is hungry for at this time. So even back in August, we were planning to maybe get together in person for at least one of the days. Just so keen, and there was lots of reflection on how social work is relationship based and how important it is to come together and see each other, and how different that kind of interaction is. And actually it was quite helpful, the announcements in kind of September time that were like, we're going to be doing this for another 6 months. So that made it really clear to us that, you know, to be safe, we just need this to all be online. But actually coming together in person was always going to be a challenge as well, because we get a lot of feedback from the sector that it's hard for frontline social workers in particular to be released from their day job, to travel to wherever we would hold it, to get the money for those things. And I think we would have had a good crowd, but we possibly would have had all the usual suspects, or a lot of people that get to come to these things, maybe more managers. And so we're really excited that it will reach more people than it would have done, and more of that frontline in particular. And also we're really conscious that it's much easier through this way to record it and then be able to share it afterwards. So it's a resource for people who can't make it at the time. You know, we know that a social worker's day, I don't think they ever know quite what it's going to look like, and it changes throughout the day. And so, you know, they might have the best will and intention to come to something, but to be able to catch up on it afterwards if they've missed it is really important.
The target audience is a very mixed one too. So, you know, clearly social work practitioners are front and center of that, but we're talking about social work practitioners at all levels of practice, including social work leaders within the sector, but especially our social work students. And we have already put a lot of effort into building a relationship with social work students, and we really want them to be front and center of this week too. And we've got some student groups and some really inspiring students being an active part of the programme. So we're really looking forward to that. And we're going to use some of the feedback from that week and from what we hear from the students who engage with us to kind of look at formalizing that relationship even further, and ensuring that, you know, social work students' voices are very much fed into the work that we're doing as a regulator, even though we currently don't regulate student social workers, but also as well people who use social work services. They're a key part of the programme, and we want to ensure that they are a key part of the audience for the programme too.
We really wanted to reach kind of 10% of our register, which is 10,000 people. And I guess whether that's through whether they come to the actual sessions or with the videos afterwards, we really wanted to just set our stall out and see who we could reach in the sector at this stage. But we don't really have any idea, like you say, this is our first year, so it's a bit of a benchmarking year to see what will happen. And I'm already starting to think, yeah, we've got big keynote speakers that lots of people can come to, but with the other sessions, we are limited with the online tool, much like you would be with the space in a room. And so it will be about who can engage on the day, but who can engage afterwards as well, I think, in reality.
Well, I'm very lucky to be one of the first speakers, actually. And our first day is centered around women in leadership because it's International Women's Day. So we felt it was appropriate to kick the week off with some of our wonderful female National Advisory Forum members, and then to look at the journeys of women who have come through social work practice and gone into leadership positions, of which I'm one. I'm a very proud social worker at heart. So, I'm really privileged to have the opportunity to share the journey that I've been on, and would really want to encourage, social work students and social work practitioners who are thinking about management and leadership to come along and hear the experiences of others. I think it's also important to say, though, that, social work practice has got leadership at all levels. And one of the things that we are particularly keen to do and explore as part of our regulation is to ensure that, as well as streamlining what can be quite a crowded landscape for social workers, that we ensure that while there are definitely those who want to go down the management and leadership track, that also social work practitioners who want to remain in practice are also valued and rewarded and recognised for the increasing sophistication of their practice. So that's very much what we will be talking about as well, which is just as relevant and just as valid leadership as the more traditional route.
We had an email from somebody just mentioning the LGBTQ plus session, which I think is on the Wednesday evening, just saying, I can't believe you've got a session on this. I feel like this issue has been so unrepresented in social work over the years, and I'm so excited to see it there, and I've booked on, and thank you. And that's all the emails said. And I always think you rarely get emails like that from a big organisation or a regulator. And it was just a joy to read. And I know that we've got an illustrator coming to illustrate some bits of the week, and she was really passionate about that session as well, and wanted to come whether she was illustrating it or not. So clearly that one's a popular one, and it doesn't feel very revolutionary to us. I think it was absolutely clear as we looked through the programme, we need to represent all that diversity. What's missing? We reached out and made sure that we had as many issues as we could covered, and yeah, it's really interesting that that's been stark for people. I think it's worth kind of pausing on that and reflecting on that. So definitely I'm going to get along to that one. And equally the neurodiversity one on a Monday evening, that one sold out really quickly, so there's a waiting list in place, but it will be recorded as well. But again, kind of a fascinating topic, and women in particular as well in that neurodiversity, because they're on our Monday Women's Day, and so I think that's particularly fascinating.
I think for me, probably two that stand out are the session on anti-Semitism, particularly in this, Race Equality Week, thinking about all kinds of racism and oppression that social workers and people who use social work services experience, unfortunately. And I often think that anti-Semitism can be hidden within those discussions. So the opportunity to bring that forward and to really encourage social workers to attend and reflect on that, I think, is a really important opportunity. So that, and then probably Omar Mohammed and Diana Katoto's session, who are two absolutely inspirational students who I've had the privilege to meet a couple of times now. And I know that they will just be amazing. So I'm really looking forward to that session too.
So we're really looking forward to you joining us at Social Work Week. To find out more, go to socialworkweek.org.uk.